there, savvy home buyers and sellers. This is Jeff O'Leary, the Village Guru, Mississauga real estate broker. And in today's episode, we're going to go over how to buy a house below asking price. Yes, lowball offers, getting a deal. It's all in this video. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. All right, who doesn't want a deal? So today we're going to talk about getting a house for below asking price. And really there's three things you need to keep in mind. So number one, you have to know your stuff when you're buying a house. Number two, you need to build rapport and make your case. And finally, you need to be able to negotiate that offer from start to finish, because let's face it, sellers do not want to sell their house below asking price. So having said that, let's dive into it a little further. So first off, you need to determine market value. Now, when I work with my clients, that involves finding the home that they're looking at and then taking all the similar homes in the area, what they've sold for, and also comparing not only the price, but also the square footage, the tax assessments, and coming up with a spread or a range of what a home like that would be worth on the low end and the high end, and then determining at this time what that house is worth. Once you have an understanding of that value, then you can compare it versus what they're asking for, and then you can start the negotiation process. So it's really important, because if you simply go to a listing agent or you have your agent go in and say, well, you're asking $700, I'm gonna offer $550, guys, it doesn't work. In fact, sellers can sense if you don't know what you're doing and you're just there to play the old I'll go low and you go high game. And a lot of times it just doesn't work because people get emotional, and that's not the way residential real estate works. So know your numbers ahead of time. Okay, step number two, you need to build rapport and make a case. So I'm going to give you a couple of quick tips. Now listen, you can do this on your own. However, it does work better when you have your own realtor. And keep in mind that a good realtor that's representing their sellers is not always going to give you all this information, okay? So it's not like we haven't heard it before. So number one, try and find out the motivation for selling. It can simply be ask the question, why are they moving? A lot of people tend to talk, so any type of information you can get is useful. Now, it doesn't mean they're telling you the whole truth, but what I find is, just like poker, if someone starts to front pretending they got such a big hand, sometimes you can get a vibe off of it. So always ask, and who knows, they just might tell you. So next, and this is a little tricky and easier with an agent, if the house is overpriced and you still want to offer on it, so you've done your valuation, you know it's overpriced, no one's buying it, you need to find out if that price is the seller's price or their realtor's price. If it's the seller's price, then the listing agent's going to understand and possibly work towards getting a solution. Now, if the realtor told the seller that their house is worth way more because they wanted to sign that listing, then they're gonna kind of be in a compromised position. So it might be a little harder. So asking that question can sometimes throw people off, but it's a good question. And it also lets them know that maybe you have some knowledge and skill in this area. The last step in building rapport is respect for the other side. That means respect for the seller and respect for the agent. Even if they're overpriced, even if they've made that mistake, you got to realize there's a lot of emotions going on in real estate. So by emphasizing with them and working with them, you're going to build a rapport that is going to make it easier to get that deal done. And guys, if you're doing this yourself, don't pretend to be a real estate expert if you're not. I can tell if you've sold hundreds of houses or not. So I would rather you just be straight up and be like, okay, you know what? I like this house. This is what I think it's worth. I want to offer it. People are willing to work, but when someone comes in acting like they've got 20 years experience and they're buying their first house because they watched a bunch of flip shows in the US, it doesn't work. It's not going to get you where you want to go. So build rapport, just be straight up, okay? All right, step number three, let's talk about negotiation. So first off, if you're serious and you want to put in an offer, you need to put it on paper. Everybody talks a lot. They talk about lowball offers and verbal offers and I can do this and cash offers and blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. Listen, if you're serious, you're going to want to put an offer on paper and also have the proof that you have the funds to buy that house. And also, don't chintz on the deposit, especially if you're trying to get it below asking price. You want to show that you're serious and you got the funds to make this deal happen. Next step, don't go for the jugular. I know it's tempting to start thinking that negotiation means if they're really overpriced that you should go really lower price and you're gonna meet in the middle. Again, it doesn't happen. Sellers get offended quite easily. Agents start to think there's games going on, and if you don't have cooperation, this is never gonna happen. You need to start at a reasonable price and make your case, because you're still getting it below asking. But if you go too low, and that's the fine line, if you go too low, then you're just gonna turn the sellers off. They're gonna say you're not serious, and that's the end of negotiation. Which brings me to my next point. You need to be patient. If you're trying to buy a house for $50,000, $100,000 below asking price, no seller in their right mind is gonna look at your offer and go, sure, whatever, I'll accept it. Regardless of whether you're right and they're overpriced, they need to take time to process it and go through the mourning process, I guess, that they're not getting the original price. So you need to be patient with that deal, and you need to allow it to happen over time. That means in a market that's busy, you do run the risk of another buyer coming in. However, if you want to get it for your price and you want to get it below, you need to let them go through that process. And finally, my last tip, which is the most important, don't get emotional over this. Good example, a lot of buyers will do everything, follow the first two steps, they'll put in their offer, they'll make their case, and then the seller won't accept their offer and they get all emotional and they're like, fine, forget it. You know what? I'm gonna draw a line in the sand. That's the end of it. That is the worst thing to do. You have to realize that there are emotions at play. And if you're a buyer looking to buy something well below market value, that means other buyers aren't jumping in. You gotta be prepared to ride this out. That means stick to your facts, allow them to go through their process. The more calm and cool you are, the more likely you are to get that offer. And just realize that the seller in a market that's decent, like in Toronto, they still have options. You know what their option is? They can always pull the house off the market, relist lower, and then your whole game is done. I have watched houses overpriced sit on the market for months, then they pull the house off the market for a couple of days, relist it at market value, and then it goes in a bidding war and sells higher. So if you have that opportunity where no one else wants that house and you can put in your offer, ride it out and don't get emotional, and hopefully you get it. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed my video on how to buy a house below asking price. Just remember that whether you do it yourself or whether you use your professional, in most cases, having your own professional representation, someone who knows what they're doing, is going to get you better results. There you have it. I'm Jeff O'Leary, the Village Guru. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends. Have yourself a great day.